for a continuation of that program. He's a prolific author. He travels all over the world. He's one of the most articulate communicators of Krishna consciousness that I've ever run across. There are insights that he has into devotional culture and saintly persons that just leave you stunned, leave your feeling goosebumps in your hair stand on end. So we're hoping to squeeze some of the nectar out of him this morning. Thank you very much for joining us in Utah, Chaitanya Charan.
Thank you, Charu Prabhu. It's an honor and pleasure to be here and to be of service to you in your glorious services, and to also relish your kindness and your friendship, although you're so senior to me. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Is it all right with you that we discuss this particular verse about Ambarish Maharaj, or did you have something else in mind?
Yes, bro. We can discuss Ambarish Maharaj pastime. Do you want to take a particular verse, or you can take the whole, the pastime itself, the significance in the Bhagavatam?
The main verse is Savayamana Krishna Paravana Sabo Karo Manira Majaro, that
yes.
Describes how it was that Maharaj Ambarish used all of his senses, all of his faculties in the service of the Lord.
Author. He travels.
So we could just generally launch from that into a general discussion. One thing I thought was your presentation last night was so interesting about the soul, body, and mind connection, and you talked about how different people react in the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance, and the mode of goodness. Do you think I could ask you to explain the behavior of Durvasa in terms of the action and reaction, the modes of material nature, and then counterpoint that with the calmness and self-possession that Maharaj Ambarish used in response to that? Would those two click together? And I can even share the screen with you if you have your smart pad there.
Yes, bro. Thank you. Actually, I've logged in from a tablet from another device. So that is Samsung. If you see Samsung SX, can you make that also the co-host?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make the Samsung the co-host here. Okay. That's done.
Okay, thank you.
Should I also make you another co-host?
That's fine. This is enough.
Okay.
Thank you. So yes, that's a very important point about the behavior of Durvasa Muni. And at one level, it seems so unreasonable. You come as a guest to somebody's house, and what you're doing is you're cursing your host. So, and that too for a minor infraction, without even understanding the situation. So, why would a character like Durvasa Muni behave like that? And we see that same Durvasa Muni. Now, there are different Vyasadevas that are described, because Vyasa is a generic name for an editor. But Durvasa Muni is supposed the same person. The Durvasa Muni is also supposed to have blessed Radharani, that he came to serve. He came to Vrindavan, Barsana, and Radharani served him. And then Durvasa Muni blessed Radharani. That whatever she cooks will taste like nectar, and whoever eats her food will never fall sick. And when Vishwamai heard about that, she wanted that Radharani should cook for Krishna. So how is it that that same character is now he cursed Ambarish? So to understand this, it's generally the way we approach scripture, especially characters in scripture who are otherwise exalted, who are worshipable, who are respectable. Then when we analyzing their actions, we focus not so much on who is right as what is right. So say if you consider sacred scriptural characters, The focus is on what is right. Srila Prabhupada, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita's first chapter, talks about how Arjuna is actually very thoughtful, very contemplative. He's thinking and he's asking what is to be done. So he is deliberating before acting. He's not just rushing into a war. And that indicates that actually he is qualified for getting spiritual knowledge. But then in the next chapter, right from the first verse itself, Prabhupada starts saying that Arjuna, he is in tears, and tears are a sign of ignorance and attachment. So what is going on? In chapter 1, he's praised, and then he is almost being criticized. So the point is that in different contexts, Prabhupada is almost like giving the maximum mileage from scripture. The point is, in the first chapter, Arjuna demonstrates one quality of a disciple, that eagerness to understand, eagerness to learn, that not to rush into situations, but to deliberate situations. But in the next chapter, Prabhupada wants to convey another character of a disciple. A disciple should not think that I know better than the Guru, that you may be ready for enlightenment, that is good, but you are not enlightened right now. And that we need to acknowledge. So is Arjuna good or bad? Ultimately, we can say that Arjuna is, or Prabhupada also say that his illusion was orchestrated by the Lord so that the Gita could be spoken. So that's why we don't want to judge and condemn sacred characters. So we don't want to say Durvasa Muni was in Rajoguna or Tamoguna. But we can say that in this particular situation, his actions were certainly questionable or objectionable, and even you could say outrageous at one level. And that is a part of the plan of the Lord. So I would like to place this in the broader context of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam ultimately, all its 12 cantos are meant for one purpose. That is to help Parikshit Maharaj focus his mind on Krishna. So this verse, Savai Mana Krishna Pada Aravindaya, that can also be seen in that light. Now, generally, when something bad happens to us, our mind tends to become upset, angry, resentful. Why did this happen to me? And the Bhagavatam's purpose, now how does Parikshit Maharaj help this pursue? How does Shukdev Goswami pursue this purpose? One is by stories of Krishna and his devotees. That way, it will help him to focus on Krishna. But simultaneously, Parikshit Maharaj could have been told many, many different stories. But the Bhagavatam tells him stories that are remarkably similar to his. That stories, so where characters also could have been resentful. So the stories chosen to tell him are stories similar to his. Similar to his means that for some small mistake, a person suffers terribly. So we can see that this theme is there in right from, you consider Dhruva. It was not even a mistake. He just wanted to sit on his mother's lap. And he was not driven out of the forest, thrown out to the forest by a curse. He just couldn't bear it. He had to leave. He went to the forest. Then we have the story of Chitraketu, where he just laughed, not out of criticism, not out of sarcasm, but out of amazement, and he was cursed to become a demon. And then after that, we also have various stories like that. Now, in these two stories, we consider the story of Ambarish thereafter, which comes. So this was fourth canto. We can analyze multiple stories like this, but let's focus on a few. Now, in these two stories, the key point is the bad guy is actually not the bad guy. Yeah? That the cursor or the punisher or the person who causes the troublemaker is actually not a villain. Now, Dhruva's mother is not, stepmother is not evil. Chitraketu, when is cursed, actually is cursed by Parvati, who is an exalted character. So, if we consider Parikshit Maharaj also, he was cursed by a Brahmana. Now, he's a Brahmana boy. But there's no description that Shrungi was like a villain who was out to destroy people in demoniac ways. Nothing like that. He just was overpowered by his power. He became corrupted. And similarly, here is the story of Durvasa. So, if we consider the comparison between Parikshit's situation and Durvasa's situation, in one sense, when we feel that we all will suffer in life, no? Suffering is something which is there for everyone. Now, that is difficult to bear. Now, suffering is even more difficult to bear when it feels more difficult if it is unfair. If it feels unfair, that means I didn't do anything and still I'm suffering. And you could say it is most difficult to bear when we feel singled out. Nobody else is suffering, I alone am suffering. So if say that there's a pandemic and everybody is getting sick, then we don't feel so bad. But there's a pandemic and nobody falls sick except we alone fall sick. What did I do? And especially if I had been maintaining my health well and somebody else eats anything, does anything, that person is not fallen sick. I've fallen sick. That feels worse. So, so we could say that when we feel that the suffering is unfair or unfair in terms of our actions or unfair in terms of it has come to us alone, it's very difficult to bear. And both Ambarish Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj suffer. They both suffer similar sufferings. It's a difficulty that has come upon them. Both of them are cursed. Now, the curse for let's compare. We will just do a broad comparison, and then the point I'm making over here, I'm just going over a long answer to your question about Durvasa Muni. But my point is that here the example that is being given is that the focus is not so much on Durvasa Muni's actions as on as Ambarish Maharaj's response to it. So we could say at Parikshit Maharaj, he got 7 days. Ambarish Maharaj was almost like instant death. The demon came to try to kill him immediately. And we could say Parikshit Maharaj, at least there was a mistake. A small mistake at least. That he had put a garland around. It was certainly the punishment was far greater. For both it was unfair. But we could say here there was no mistake at all. No mistake at all. That he had actually consulted the Brahmanas, he had used his intelligence, and the action he had done was for actually the good of the society after he was just breaking his fast. And then on top of that, Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't have to no interaction with Shringi. If somebody has hurt us, we just don't want to see them, we don't want to talk with them. Okay, you hurt me, just get out of my life. I don't want to be near you. But Ambarish, so we could say, Ambarish Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj forgave Shringi. He didn't try to counter curse or counter attack. He did not use his royal power. He forgave, but there was no interaction. And in one sense, it's easy. Out of mind, out of sight is out of mind. But Ambarish Maharaj's situation is worse, where he not only had to forgive, but he also had to seek forgiveness for him from Sudarshan. That means he has not done anything wrong, please forgive him. Now that is far worse. That means, say, if somebody has committed a crime against us, somebody has robbed us, and we forgive them, but the police want to charge them. And we go to the police and tell them, no, please, he's not such a bad person. We forgive him. That is far more difficult. That somebody can go to that extent. It's one thing to pray that this unfair situation, please give me the strength to tolerate. But it's another thing that a person who has done something wrong to us, to seek forgiveness for them.
Can you say one thing also about how it was that Ambarish felt that he was the offender?
Yes, that is true. In one sense, we can say Parikshit Maharaj also took responsibility for his mistake. But with respect to Ambarish Maharaj, while there was no mistake, still he felt that I could have done better. So he took responsibility that for the situation. He felt that it was because of me this great sage was put into the trouble.
Wow.
And therefore, he sought forgiveness. Now here we can think of a parallel with how Jesus Christ also said, forgive them for they know not what they do. So there, he's also seeking forgiveness on the behalf of those who are crucifying him. Now that is far more difficult. Generally, when we talk about tolerance, now there are two distinct things. One is adversity is difficult to tolerate, but far more difficult to tolerate is atrocity. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is referred to as aho kashtam. Kashta is atrocity, but this is anyayam. Anyay, sorry, kashta is adversity. Adversity is a bad thing happens to us. Say we are going about a normal life and suddenly a storm comes or a flood comes and upsets our life. But atrocity is where there's a human agent who's responsible for our problems. That say a flood comes to our house and we get in trouble, but we have a political enemy and that enemy controls the nearby dam, and that person deliberately opens the dam so that our house gets flooded and our property gets destroyed. Then to exhibit tolerance is far more difficult. So here tolerance is tough, but amid adversity, it is the toughest. It is far tougher, you can see. And to tolerate is tougher, but here to ask for forgiveness, that is the toughest. Ask to not just to ask that person ask that person be forgiven. So through this, basically, Ambarish Maharaj is being used as an example. Oh, Parikshit Maharaj, don't give in to resentment, don't give in to anger. Just focus on the Lord. And this is how great souls have acted in the past. And now for this purpose, see, when atrocity comes upon us, when some terrible thing happens to us, well, that is also, if we consider, which is more difficult to bear. Bad people doing bad things. It is difficult to bear. How can somebody be so evil? That's difficult to bear. But good people doing bad things is even more difficult to bear. Because in this case, we just have low expectations. Yeah, they're like that. What else can you expect from them? But in the case of good people, we have high expectations. And you should be behaving in a good way. That's why I say if we are doing a business dealing with someone, and in that business dealing somebody cheats us, and we feel outraged, but okay, people are like that, the world is like that. But suppose we are doing some service with some devotee, and then we do the service together, and at the end of the service the devotee steals credit from us. The devotee says, I did everything. And then it's far more difficult to bear, because not only what is stolen from us, but it shatters our expectations. So when a good person does a bad thing, at that time to forgive is much more difficult. And that is why sometimes conflicts between good people are sometimes more painful than conflicts between two bad people. And there are conflicts, if you mess with me, I'll destroy you. It's just the expectation. So what do we do in such a situation? When a good person does bad things, conflicts between bad people, more or less, in one sense, the terms are clear. Whoever has more power, they will win. But the pain is much more for conflicts among good people. And that's why Prabhupada often said that your love for me is shown by how you cooperate. So, going back to your specific question, my understanding is that Durvasa Muni is, in one sense, orchestrated by the Lord to demonstrate the glory of Ambarish Maharaj. It's like in the 7th canto, specifically it is stated that when when Hiranyakashipu was terrorizing everyone, even Narad Muni bowed down to Hiranyakashipu. The only person who did not bow down was Prahalad. That when Narasimhadev eventually appeared, it is Prahalad's singular glorification. Nobody was able to pacify him. Neither Brahmaji, it's even Lakshmi Devi was not able to pacify. But Prahalad was glorified. So all other characters, they consciously or unconsciously, they contribute to the glorification of the central character. So is Lakshmi Devi not a good devotee? She's the greatest devotee, she's the consort of the Lord. But in this particular pastime, it is Prahalad's glory that is to be highlighted. And therefore, all other characters contribute to that. Now, of course, Durvasa Muni is not said to be a great devotee like Prahalad, like Lakshmi Devi. But the point is, I said, what is right and what is wrong? If you want not to focus on what is right, then more than who is right, then this particular story is to illustrate. The focus is more on Ambarish Maharaj's greatness, not on Durvasa Muni's short temper. So that's why the story does not end with Durvasa Muni being condemned. Now, I'll just make one more point about Durvasa actions. The Bhagavatam has one theme. So here, if we consider from one perspective, there's a key difference between so if you consider Durvasa versus Ambarish, so in one sense, Durvasa represents the yoga path and Ambarish represents the bhakti path. So this means more the path of austerity, the path of renunciation. Durvasa Muni is a Muni, and the Bhagavatam is demonstrating the glory of bhakti as compared to other paths. So Durvasa Muni it's not so much his character as his path being compared. So we can see this as a comparison of the path of renunciation versus the path of devotion. And here what is demonstrated is the path of devotion is far greater. This is actually far lesser. So some ways the Bhagavatam is almost being subversive. Subversive means that the Bhagavatam is inverting normal hierarchies. Two hierarchies are inverted over here. Invert the standard hierarchies of piety. That Ambarish Maharaj is a Grahastha. So as a Grahastha is lower than a sannyasi. And Ambarish Maharaj is Kshatriya. The Kshatriya is lower than a Brahmana. But it is being shown that here, Grahastha is shown to be greater than a sannyasi. And similarly, a Kshatriya is shown to be greater than a Brahmana. And the point of this is that actually, it is not that all Grahasthas are greater than sannyasis, all Kshatriyas are greater than Brahmanas. The point is, a Bhakta is greater than a yogi. Like the point of this pastime is to glorify Bhakti. So, despite having performed so many austerities, Durvasa Muni succumbs to anger. The Bhagavatam gives a beautiful metaphor. It says, lust is like a vast ocean and it is very difficult to cross. Most people, when they're crossing, they just sink into this ocean of lust. They succumb to their senses. But he said there are some sages who cross beyond this ocean of lust. But if they don't take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, then there is this puddle of anger, and they fall and sink in the puddle of anger. So the point is not just to conquer lust or to conquer anger. The point is that we need to take shelter of Krishna. If we are not taking shelter of Krishna, if our focus is not upward towards Krishna, then this or that or something, somehow the other, anartha will catch us. So here, it is demonstrated Durvasa Muni, he's a renunciate, and there is no past time where it is described that there are any problems with his renunciation, that he gets attracted to some woman or something like that. Is not described anywhere as far as I have read in the Puranas. But yet he's known to be short-tempered. He's infamous as being short-tempered. So he keeps falling into this puddle of lust, of anger, although he's crossed over the ocean of lust. So Ambarish Maharaj is able to avoid anger by having taken shelter of Krishna. So that focus on bhakti, that taking shelter of Krishna, is what is emphasized. This is emphasized for Parikshit Maharaj, that don't get angry, don't feel angry with life, don't feel angry with Shringi. Just focus on Krishna. And that can apply for all of us also. Yes, Prabhu.
Wow, that's a wonderful. Can you save this? Can you save this? This is the whole outline for a wonderful talk in the future. Is
Yes,
there any
Prabhu.
way that you can get a screenshot of that whole
Yes,
presentation and send
I'll
it to
send
me?
Yes, sure, Prabhu. I'll send it to you. Thank you.
I can't believe that you just did that right off the top of your head.
Thank you. Happy to be of service. It's your association that is inspiring me to speak something.
You know, again, referring to the presentation you gave last night, where you very scientifically explained the different ways that people in different modes of material nature react. Some contemplate and then act, and some act and then contemplate, and some act and don't. And so what would you say about Ambarish? He does have a history of flying off the handle. He's not reputed to be the most compassionate, the most empathetic person. And so what he did was not totally unexpected.
Yes.
So what percentage would you say of this is because most people who like Parikshit, he garlanded the sage. He appeared to have been affected by hunger and thirst. That was uncharacteristic of him. Similarly, Parvati, who's a great ascetic herself, that was somewhat uncharacteristic of her to curse Chitraketu for what he did. But in Durvasa's case, it's much more expected. It's less surprising. So how much of what he was doing was influenced by the Lord and therefore uncharacteristic of him, and how much was characteristic, actually dictated by the modes of passion and ignorance?
Yes, good point. So as I said, I have not read any reference that it is said that Durvasa Muni was orchestrated by the Lord. I was only making the point that I would hesitate to say that Durvasa Muni represents the lower modes, because still he is a great sage. That is the point I was making. But definitely, it is true that it is his characteristic to get angry, as you said, to fly off the handle, and so it also indicates that somebody could be a sage and still have some conditioning, and that conditioning. So it's interesting that the Bhagavatam's mood overall, in one sense, it repeatedly emphasizes that devotees are greater than Brahmanas, and yet the Bhagavatam does not satirize or or trivialize or demonize Brahmanas. They are just laughing stocks. They are worthless. The Bhagavatam, in one sense, maintains a respectful tone towards the Brahmanas. So Durvasa Muni is to be respected, but the point is that bhakti is to be respected even more. So yes, it's his characteristic behavior. So sometimes we could make another point here, that the devotion can be manifested through two ways. Generally, we think of serious devotee as somebody who has purity. And generally, purity means we generally put it as a person has conquered lust. That person has conquered sensual desire. But devotion can also be manifested as humility. And in some ways, the devotion manifested as humility is actually better than devotion manifested as this is greater than science, too greater than science. That devotion manifested as humility is better than as purity. Because what happens when there is a focus on, when there is a person is obsession with purity, then when there is obsession with purity, there are two dangers that can happen because of that. One is that, so actually this is better, this is questionable. When there is obsession with purity, there can be constantly a sense of superiority or insecurity, a sense of ego or a sense of I am so great, just see how pure I am. And otherwise, oh, I am worthless, I am useless. Sometimes in bhakti also, we try to rate our devotion solely by our capacity to give up sense gratification. And yes, we all have conditionings, we want to give them up, but there is this unnecessary agitation of the mind. Oh, I am so great, or I am so fallen. And sometimes when we say, I am a fallen soul, we focus so much on the fallen part that we forget the soul part. That I'm a soul, that I'm a part of Krishna, that I am still precious, that I'm still beloved by Krishna. So that superiority and insecurity can come up. And this insecurity can lead to discouragement. A person may even quit the practice of bhakti. But then that superiority can lead to actually disrespect. It can lead to offenses. That means anybody who is not up to my standard, that person doesn't have even the right to speak in my presence. That person doesn't even have a right to exist if I don't allow that person to exist. So we often get a sense of entitlement because of our purity. And then we condemn others. And this is what happened with Durvasa Muni. He thought, because I'm a renunciate, I'm entitled to respect. And that respect is not being given, that is outrageous. Who is this person acting like this? So in many ways, it's on the spiritual path, while cultivating purity is important, cultivating humility is even more important. In the Shikshashtakam, we consider first the emphasis is on humility. We have third verse is Trinadapi, and then the fourth verse is Radhanam Najanam Sundari. The idea is, if first there is humility and then purity follows, and that purity will actually lead to Nadanam Najanam Sundari, that it will lead to be focusing on Krishna. When we have humility, we become absorbed in the glory of Krishna, and then we automatically can say no to temptations. And that takes us even closer to Krishna. Otherwise, if purity comes without humility, then essentially what happens, you could put it this way, that instead of looking up to Krishna, we start looking down at people. So bhakti is meant to look up, not look down. So if this happens, if you focus on purity more than humility, that's what happens. So we could say this is what has happened to Durvasa Muni. His renunciation creates a entitlement mentality, which leads to the short temper, leads to anger. Okay.
Wonderful answer. Let me see if I can get Facebook here. Okay, yeah, we've got Facebook. So I'm seeing if there are any questions. Nope, just pranams and all glories to Prabhupada, and please accept my humble obeisances. So I don't have, apparently your presentation is so complete that our Facebook joinees only have awe and appreciation for it. But I'm hoping that you can send me, is it possible to send just a copy of all of this?
Yes, definitely, bro. I'll send it to you today itself.
I can't believe that just out of almost extempore, you produced this completely airtight, logical, sequential presentation about the glories of Maharaj Ambarish and the superiority of Bhakti Yoga. as compared to asceticism and yoga.
Thank you, bro. As I said, it's your association that inspired me to speak something. I'm grateful to be of service. Thank you so much for the opportunity, bro. You have any realizations you would like to share? I have been speaking, I should be hearing from you also.
That was such a complete presentation. It almost leaves nothing unsaid or no area covered. It's interesting though that when Sudarshana chakra comes, that it lights up everything like the sun. That prior to the advent of the Sudarshana chakra, which incidentally resided within the palace of Ambarish. Ambarish was so dear to Lord Krishna that it's described that Lord Krishna gave the Sudarshana chakra the order to stay in the palace of Ambarish. And so when Durvasa threw the fire weapon at Ambarish, the Sudarshana did not have to come from a long distance away. Sudarshana chakra was already in-house. And when the Sudarshana chakra appeared like the morning sun, banishing the fog, so all the achievements, all the self-made power of Durvasa diminished into insignificance in the light of the Sudarshan chakra. So all those points that you make about the superiority of bhakti and the higher level of self-control exhibited by the devotee are made abundantly clear in the presence of the light, the knowledge, the purity, the humility of the Sudarsana chakra. The whole situation becomes completely clarified as soon as the Sudarsana, the greatness of Maharaj Ambarish and the shortcomings of the yogis and the ascetics. And it's interesting to note, do you want to just make one more comment? I've taken enough of your valuable time, but could you just make one more comment about the happy ending? The fact is that Durvasa Muni and Ambarish became great friends after this.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. The Bhagavatam here, at least in this particular pastime, it illustrates how the remarkable power of tolerance, not only in preventing a bad situation from becoming worse, but actually making a bad situation better. So it is, Ambarish Maharaj always had a respectful disposition toward Durvasa, but Durvasa Muni gave a far greater appreciation. So friendship has to be both ways. We can be friend towards someone. Love can be one way, but a loving relationship has to be two ways. So through this pastime, Durvasa Muni gets a far greater appreciation of devotees, especially of Ambarish Maharaj, and thus he becomes. They end on very good terms, and yeah. So sometimes conflicts that we resolve, sometimes patience, by tolerance. That's what illustrated. A devotee so gracefully. In the Gita, it is described, one of the characters of devotees. That is, I think, one of my favorite characteristic is that Yasman no dujate loko, lokan no dujate chaya. One who does not disturb others and one who is not disturbed by others. And I see that devotees who emphasize purity are exactly the opposite. They constantly disturb others. Don't do this, don't do this. You're like this, you're like that. And they're not just making others' life miserable. Actually, seeing other devotees not up to their standard makes them also feel miserable. So ultimately, Ambarish Maharaj shows this, that he's not disturbed by what Durvasa has done, and he does not disturb Durvasa, and that is what wins the heart of Durvasa also.
Wonderful presentation. That's one of the most uplifting and educational, edifying 45 minutes I've ever spent within recent memory, and I appreciate it. For those who are listening, Chaitanya Charan will be live in the temple this evening from 6 to 8, doing the second part. Can you just, in 25 words or less, tell us what the first part covered and what the second part's going to cover tonight?
Thank you, bro. So I discussed how the three modes function and how they delude us in the first session. And today evening, I'll be talking about how we can change the modes influencing us. and thereby elevate ourselves, and how especially bhakti can empower us in making this change.
Something to look forward to between 6 and 8 this evening in the Salt Lake City Temple. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and visit us physically and taking the time to jump on and present this wonderfully enlightening and empowering presentation on the qualities of Ambarish Maharaj. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you so much.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna. Glories to Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thanks.